Entrepreneurs build products that are smarter, better, harder working than they are. So, for example, Steve Jobs, who dropped out of Reed College. I lived next door to Reed College in Oregon for a while. But he invented the cell phone. That cell phone is 1,000 times more powerful than he is. It works harder. It serves more people.
Winning wants you to be different. Winning requires you to do different things. Winning requires you to think in a different way. Winning speaks its own language. Winning has its own way of recognizing you. People will point out your weaknesses, but there's a big difference between your weaknesses and your flaws. Flaws are your gifts, and people are so busy trying to deal with their flaws and change their flaws when their flaws are actually allows them to stay in that race.
When you wake up, talking about brainwave states, we're talking about superhero states, your brain cycles through different brainwaves. Beta is when you're most awake. You're in beta, most of you right now. Delta is when you're asleep. Hopefully nobody's in delta right now. Theta is right above delta. That's the state of creativity we talked about, like when you're in the shower, right? You're so relaxed, almost in and out of sleep. And then you're so creative, right? You're very inspired.
Somebody who's wealthy has made money their slave. They're no longer the slave to money. And the way they do that is they figured out how to become an owner. And the way you do that in the most simplistic way, I even taught it in my first book, was you have to decide there's a percentage of money that you're going to keep forever. You're not going to give it to Kate Spade or Ferrari or anybody else. You can do that too. But there's a percentage of that income that never will be touched, that you will grow and compound and will provide income the rest of your life so you don't have to work. Now, when I was growing up, everybody's goal was get rich enough so you never have to work.
When are we happy? When? What is it? There's something missing. And the coolest thing about free choice is you can believe in whatever you want. Then all the 17-year-olds, right? Oh, yes. Oh, I'm so stressed. I got to get into university. I got to get you, blah, 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 blah. You get into university and is everything okay? No. Now what do you need? A job. Oh God, please give me a job. Then everything's gonna be okay. No. After 2 days, you look at your boss in the face and you look at God and you say, really? You give me him? I hate him. He stresses me out.
What do we do now? We keep really busy being busy, always busy, but it's an escape mechanism of a frightened person. And the real work of a leader and an entrepreneur, it's not building the external business. That's all important. We could talk hours on the right team, culture, I teach all that stuff. Right. The real work of leadership and to be an icon, it's all within. To get to a place where you own your power, you own your talent, you figure out your values. You don't care if people laugh at you, because if they don't laugh at you, you're playing too small. And then you go out in the world and you show up the way you can.
You know, maybe you're in California, see someone speeding down the road in a convertible Porsche, and you think, oh man, what a lucky bastard. And the truth of the matter is that he's thinking about wrapping his expensive sports car around the next cement pillar that he comes close to. You know, you can't tell, and people have hard lives, and even people who are comparatively fortunate have hard lives. And so the ideal that you're observing that makes you jealous and resentful is in large part an illusion that's created by your own mind.
What are we doing to ourselves? This is becoming insane. And the moment you see that it is insane, then there's some sanity in you. Because nobody who knows they're insane is completely insane. Mm-hmm. The really insane people don't know they're insane. So if you see the insanity in the way that we collectively communicate, you say, okay, I'm not going to be part of that. It's necessary to see it. And then your responsibility as an individual is not to feed it, to stay conscious, to stay present, so that your input is conscious and does not seek to destroy other human beings and dehumanize other human beings.
And that's one of the biggest assets I have. Like I said, with ES, the Quadrant, ES, B, and the I. The right-hand side is B and I. That's brand. How much is a brand? So when you look at I's like Buffett, a guy like Buffett only invests in brand. He only invests in things like Gillette, Coca-Cola, Apple, Newmont Mining, and all this stuff. So the object of the entrepreneur was then to learn the skill set to create assets that are brands.
Let's find a role model. it seems impossible till you see somebody who's done it. So, Ray Dalio is one of the greatest investors in history. The guy was a caddy, right? His dad was a jazz musician, his mom was a homemaker. He's worth $14 billion.
He found someone to mentor him.
He found multiple people to model. Right. You don't always find a mentor, but you find somebody you can model. And when you start seeing that somebody else can do it, and you see they really did, you start to believe, you start to get certainty. And then the fourth thing I tell people is it's massive action and constantly change your approach. And then it's find somebody worse off than you are and help them. Because when you do that, it gets you out of yourself. And that's what I really have people do. That's what we do at Thanksgiving. We have our basket brigade where 2 million people get fed.
Amazing.
Not the one I do, the one that I get people to do. And it's amazing. People go in there and they see, my God, I thought my life was tough, but look at this person's life. It makes you appreciative. It puts life in.
And so what does a superhero do? What's the defining characteristics of a superhero? They have superpowers, right? And how many people have found their unique ability, their superpower? You're discovering it, right? Your unique talent, your unique strength, something that's unique to you. But then just having a superpower, does that make you a superhero? You have to use that power for what? For good, for some kind of purpose on top of that, right? And so I love sharing space and time with modern day superheroes. But there are also some modern day supervillains, right? These ideas of these phenomena of like digital overload.
The more spaciousness you create, the more effective your thinking will be when you start thinking again. Because then thinking can link into this creative intelligence that is the unconditioned intelligence in you, and then it can be inspired by that. I would suggest every creative person who creates something really new had some access to that dimension in the area of their creative endeavor. Probably not in the rest of their lives. They may be as crazy as everybody else in the rest of their lives.
Right.
But when they engage in their act of creation, they have access to that dimension. And this is, once you touch this power within you, which is not egoic power, it's not power over somebody else.
I consider work, maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your role as a caregiver or a parent or a companion or a volunteer, whatever it may be. It's a thing you invest your energy in on a persistent basis for years and decades. If we can figure out how to spend that time in a way that's deeply nourishing and fully expressing ourselves.
There's a difference between enduring happiness and fleeting pleasure. So driving a great car and the hotel room and the nice house, well, come on, it makes you feel better. Yeah. Would you rather eat beautifully prepared food or fast food?
But let me talk to you about stress for a moment. So stress has 3 components, and this is maybe the takeaway. There's the external event called the stressor. So depending on where you stand on Brexit, the defeat of the referendum would have stressed you, or perhaps the success of the referendum is what stressed you. So there's no universal stressor. It depends on the individual of how they perceive and experience a particular event.
How is that going to change us as human beings? How is it going to change our relationships? How's it going to change work? How's it going to change society? Like, we need human beings who are existing in that state now more than ever, because we are in a place where we need people to be at their best.
Yeah. Children have attention deficit disorder. Now, what is attention deficit disorder? They can't focus on anything for very long anymore. Mm-hmm. What does that do to human consciousness? What does it do to a civilization if humans grow up now without the ability to focus on tension for very long? Because any creative act requires you to be present with something for a period of time to give.
It's only going to come down to 2 ideas. It's going to come down to number 1, as compared to the potential talent and genius you were born into, how much of it did you leverage through your days to unleash onto the world? Mm-hmm. And number 2, how many people did you lift up with you? When I was growing up, my dad took out this quote from Rabindranath Tagore, and he said it all the time to me, and it was, "Son, when you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice." And that might sound very idealistic, but actually it's an amazing driving force as an entrepreneur or business builder or game changer, which is ultimately our calling is to use our lives to birth genius level value into the world and lift the world with us by the time we get to the end of our lives.
Subscribe now.